So on this channel, I like to talk about the tools and strategies that I use to help me disconnect. It's no secret that many people like me are a little bit skeptical about the ever-developing smart world, where day after day we're left feeling overstimulated and exhausted. For me, I find that lower tech, more single-purpose devices can help me disconnect or at least distance myself a bit from the grip of these smart tools. Today, I want to share with you 10 of my favorite low-tech items that I use each and every day to do that. But first, if you don't know me, I'm Spencer, and I like to talk about simple living, frugality, and digital minimalism. Let's get into it. So my criteria for today's low-tech everyday essentials are tech tools that just do one thing. Some of these tech tools might be quite new and some of them might be verging on antiques, but the through line here is there's no notifications, there's no need for constant updates, it's a simpler time. So with that, let's get into it. The first tech tool that I use every day, it is an everyday essential for me, is my alarm clock. Now the alarm clock is a great tool and a good one to start this list with, I think, because the alarm clock is a simple tool that we all know. It's been around for a very long time and it can be acquired quite cheaply. And by having a dedicated alarm clock and just a clock in general, particularly in your bedroom, this is what I'm referring to, you're going to be less likely to pick up your phone all the time just to check what time it is. The other great thing about having an alarm clock, particularly a clock with an alarm, is that it gives you the opportunity, if you choose, to keep your phone out of the bedroom altogether. The phone being an all-in-one smart tool, people are just so at ease with using it for every single thing, including an alarm clock. So it's very common to see people with the phone beside their bed at all times. The first thing people do when they wake up in the morning nowadays is pick up their phone and go on it for a while. The first thing that they do is hammer their mind with constant stimulus. That's not the way to go, I would argue. And though I have fallen victim to that myself at times for sure, I find that having that alarm clock in the room, it just takes away the excuse that the only reason that I'm putting the phone in my room at that point, if I already have an alarm clock that is serving the function of being an alarm, it's just that I can entertain myself with that device. Now, my alarm clock is a vintage General Electric one that I picked up at a local community garage sale. These things are pretty nostalgic. This one was a sentimental one for me because my grandpa had a very similar one growing up, and I just remembered that. This thing has wood grain, the time shows up in red, and it also has a built-in radio on it, which is a pretty nice feature too. Fortunately for you and I, people are still for the most part sleeping on the physical alarm clock, and every time I go to the thrift store, I see one in stock. It's usually around $5. Now moving on with my second low-tech everyday essential, we have my analog watch. Now I'll take this one off. This watch that I have here is great. This is the Timex Expedition Scout. This thing's great. It's a nice robust metal watch. It has a faded white face, kind of like a creamy white face. Has a really nice leather strap. Like, I honestly have nothing but good things to say about it. I've had it for just about 4 years now and it has not let me down. It is still ticking just like the first day I got it. The best thing about it too is that Canadian dollars, it was like $50, which I thought that was a pretty fair price for such a classic, good looking watch that was also reliable and waterproof. Having a watch like this, a dedicated watch, and particularly not a smart watch, is a great way to go in my opinion because it just makes you less likely to pick up your phone unnecessarily. I don't glance at my phone anymore when I want to know what time it is. I can quickly just turn my wrist over and look at my watch. That's kind of the theme with all of the tools in my list today. Many smart devices can do all of the features that I talk about in my list today and more. But the reason why you might want to have single purpose devices like this is because you're not going to get pulled into the rabbit hole with any of these tools. I also have another watch that I picked up a year ago, I think. This is a vintage Timex watch. It's a little bit worse build quality, honestly, but it's a mechanical watch and I just wanted to try one of these out. This has been a fun watch too because I like the ritual of winding it every day. With a mechanical watch, there is a little bit more expense associated with it because they have to be maintained over the years in order to keep good time. I like to say that I aspire to be eventually on nobody else's time but my own. So I don't mind if this thing drifts and I'm late or early to somewhere because the watch is off time. So this is kind of my aspirational watch that I can afford to wear this any day of the week because I'm not on anybody's schedule but my own. So moving on to my third low-tech everyday essential, and that is my wallet. Now my wallet is a two-piecer, and in the time where people are thinking about getting chips implanted into their arms so they can tap with their skin rather than with their phone or their card, having a wallet like this with actual cash in it, I think it's a great way to go. I just did a video on this, why I think cash is still the way to go here in 2025, and I'll link that above if you're interested in checking it out. For me, I think that carrying cash is just a great way to go because it makes you a little bit more mindful with the transactions that you're doing. Seeing that money leave your hand, having to count it out and hand it over to the cashier, there's just a mental shift that that happens. I think there's a little bit more intention to it than the mindlessness of just tapping your phone or your card. Also, in this crazy world of insane tipping culture, paying with exact change is a good way to have to avoid any expectation of tipping more. And that brings me to my change wallet. Now, this is a leather change wallet that I have. It kind of opens like a cootie catcher, and this thing holds all of the change that I carry around throughout the day. I try to support the small businesses in my area by paying cash as much as I can, because then they're not having to pay any extra card fees with every transaction. Once again, this is just a great way to go because it gives me a little bit less reliance on my phone. I don't need my phone to be my wallet because I have a wallet. My cards are in here, all the identification that I need, as well as cash. So if I go to a business that is a cash only business, because there are still a few of those around, I'm able to still do business there. I'm still able to buy something, whereas somebody paying exclusively with their phone would have to leave. So moving on from that to my fourth low-tech everyday essential, I have my radio. So I've talked about my portable radio that I have on the channel a lot so far. That is a Kaito portable radio. I think it might be called the KA210. That's a great one for just walking around the neighborhood, for being out in the backyard, and even for taking on road trips. But day to day, we have a vintage Panasonic radio. It's a larger one that we use around the house. It belongs to my girlfriend. She's a bit of a low-tech gal herself, and it's been on top of our fridge, blessing our kitchen since long before I lived here. Now, I like to start my day and end my day without my phone in my hand. Ideally for me, if I could not use my phone for the first and last hour of the day, I'm having a good day. But oftentimes when I'm making breakfast or I'm making dinner, I'll turn that radio on and I'll bless the kitchen with a little bit of sound. Now, I flip between 3 different stations here. Usually on AM, I'm listening to different talk radio. More so at dinner time, I go over to the FM station and I flip to Jazz FM. Now, I'm not going to pretend that I don't sometimes listen to a YouTube video while I'm cooking or listen to a podcast, but having the radio as a way to listen to something while I'm cooking a meal is a great way to just get the phone or get the computer out of the room. And then there's just a little bit less distraction there in general. As a freelancer, I try to put a little bit more space between my work and my life because it's harder to get as a freelancer. You're kind of on call 24/7. By not having my phone on me at all times and by subbing it out for things like the radio in this case, I feel like I'm not on call at all times and I can find a little bit of peace just doing a ritual like cooking a meal. With that, moving on to my fifth low-tech everyday essential, and that is my antenna. Now, I've talked about this before, but one of my favorite low-tech tools of all time has to be my Philips Rabbit Ears. I haven't had a standard like flat screen TV around for probably the last 5 years or so. I had no TV for a while. For a little while, I just had a projector, and now I have this little like 13-inch tube TV. When I got that tube TV, I naturally got the idea to grace it with some rabbit ears, and I've been very happy with them since I bought them. There's definitely better antennas out there that get more channels, but I'm more than happy with what I get. I get a lot of local programming around here. I get a lot of news. I also get big event coverage like the Grammys, the Super Bowl, the Oscars, things like that. The best part is this antenna was like 20 bucks and I get TV, not ever having to pay for it again, and I feel very happy about that. Now, I don't watch TV every day, but similarly to the radio, I like to turn on the TV with the antenna in the morning and find out the news. I don't subscribe to any sort of news on my phone or anything like that, so having these controlled blasts of news information that I can get from turning on the radio or turning on my TV are great ways for me to intentionally consume that and then turn it off. Moving on with that to my sixth low-tech everyday essential, and that is the newspaper. Similarly to the antenna or the radio, if I want to get that controlled feed of news, not the endless scroll of bad information coming to me, but a little bit of information just so I'm in the loop and then I turn it off, the newspaper is a great way to go. This is also a fully analog way to go, which is very nice. You don't find yourself having to plug it in, needing electricity to look at it. You just pick up the newspaper and you get to reading. When I decided to get back into reading the paper, it was kind of hard to find one for a while, but my landlord is of a similar mind to me, and she will often pick up people's discarded newspapers at the gym, and when she's finished reading them, she'll drop them at my door so I have a chance after the fact. Now, this particular paper is a few weeks old, and sometimes I do end up with older papers because I'm not buying them at the newsstand hot off the presses, but not all news, even if it's an older paper, is old news. A lot of it is still plenty relevant, and you can read a month's old paper and still learn something today. Once again, with reading the newspaper, it's just a good analog task. You're not finding yourself in an endless feed. You're not getting rage baited by the stuff because they need you to be enraged in order to engage with the content. I am also of the opinion that newspapers newspapers at least have trained journalists who are going to, on the whole, on average, do a better job than the blogosphere. So I choose to read the newspaper for my news most of the time. Now we're getting into entertainment items here. So the seventh item in my low-tech everyday essentials are my journal and my pen. So almost every day I like to wake up in the morning and I like to write in my journal. I just sometimes will do, 1 page, sometimes I'll do 3 pages, sometimes I'll do as much maybe as 5 pages. This is a great way to flesh out things you're thinking about and just work through things actively that you're still wrapping your head around. I made this journal cover out of leather just so I was able to, cover it and it looked nice, I thought, had a bit of a low-tech look to it. And then I use a fountain pen as well. This is a Muji fountain pen. It's aluminum. It has a refillable converter in here, so I'm able to actually use a little piston to fill the thing up with ink over and over again, so I'm not constantly going through plastic pens to do my writing. Now my eighth low-tech everyday essential is the paper book. Now the paper book, people were giving me crap about this on the last video that, oh, tech bro just found out about a book. I've read a book before, but I think a lot of people are sleeping on books nowadays. I think a lot of people, because of the advent of e-readers and even the fact that you can get books on an iPad or a phone, different things like this, people are not going to the physical book nearly as much as they did in the past. Like many older ways of consuming media and using technology, I'm a fan. I love reading the physical book just for the reasons that I mentioned before, I don't have to worry about the file getting corrupted. I don't have to worry about charging this. I can take this with me anywhere I go. And it also isn't going to have the notifications, the distractions, the endless opportunities for me to distract myself inside of here. There's just the book and the words written on the page, and that's as simple as that. This book in particular is How to Survive Without a Salary by Charles Long. This is a pretty cool book, especially one that I wanted to read as a freelancer. It's just talking about how to live without the standard income coming in from a 9 to 5, having that steady flow of a salary coming in week after week, knowing that you have money coming in at all times. This is a pretty interesting book, and I do recommend it if you're looking to live a bit more of an offbeat life and you don't necessarily want to work a 9 to 5 job where you're going to have that steady income coming in. Now, moving on to my ninth low-tech everyday essential item, I want to talk about my camera. This is my highest tech item on the list by far, but I still consider it low tech in a sense just because it is a single purpose tool. It doesn't really have any distractions in here. This is just a device that does the one thing it's supposed to do, and that is take pictures and video. Now, this is a camera I got just a couple of weeks ago now. This is the OM system, formerly known as Olympus OM1. And I particularly wanted this because it has a very small sensor, which means that the lenses that it requires can also be very small as well. One of my favorite things to do is wildlife photography. I love getting out into nature. I love identifying birds and different wildlife. I like hiking around and taking pictures of the things that I see. And OM System has done a really good job of carving out a niche for themselves in that group. This camera particularly is fully weather sealed. When you see demos of this camera from the company, they will literally dump bottles of water on top of this camera. If it gets dirty, like with mud or something, people are encouraged to hose off the camera because it really is that weather sealed. I'm still testing this camera because I also have another camera that could do a lot of the things that this can. This might be something that I end up flipping in the future, but just having a dedicated camera in general is a great way to go, especially if you're interested in photography as a hobby. Because wildlife is my focus and I can get a super telephoto lens in this relatively small form factor, I'm able to now go out very easily and take photos of the birds in the backyard or in my neighborhood, and I don't have to worry about any more distractions being with me. In fact, I went out just this afternoon to take some photos across the road in the park. I didn't even bring my phone with me. I just brought this device and I had a lot of fun. Smartphone cameras are getting really good. And I think at like closer focal lengths, like just taking pictures of people who are right in front of you, a smartphone camera is really good. For the majority of people who aren't really interested in photography as a craft, you can just get away with a smartphone. But having a camera like this, a smartphone will still never touch it for a long time to come. Okay, so lastly, talking about my 10th and final item on my low-tech everyday essentials, and that is the item that I love to entertain myself with the most of all, and it's the one that I've been entertaining myself with the longest of all, and that is my guitar. Now, I've been playing guitar for a very long time now. I think I've been playing for like 26 years or something like that. Guitar is just my favorite thing to do. It's been my favorite thing to do for the longest time. I sing, I play guitar, I've been playing music for my entire life. And this is one of those things where I can just tune out the rest of the world and do this fun and focused activity. Now, often on this channel, I talk about ways to distract yourself better, finding alternatives to the smart world, to the endless scroll, things that will ultimately feel more meaningful to you, oftentimes skills that you can learn and find enjoyment in that are going to bring you more joy over the long term than the scroll. For me, my guitar is just one of those things. Now, oftentimes when we find those rare moments of boredom still, where you're just kind of wandering around and letting your mind wander itself, I keep these just out in the open in our living room. And I'll pick my guitar up once in a while. Whenever my mind's wandering, I might just find this in my hand and I'll start picking away at it. And I'll lose a few minutes playing a song or two. And I just think that's a much better way to go than if I just scrolled on Instagram and got a bunch of FOMO for half an hour. Now, it doesn't have to be guitar for you. It could be a whole variety of things. Just finding an interest that excites you, that makes you more excited than going on your phone. So excited that you don't think about picking up your phone in those moments of boredom. And that's why I like to say distract yourself better, because when I have a little bit of downtime and I'm sitting around my house, picking up my guitar is one of the first things that comes into my head, and I'm more excited to do that than picking up my phone and seeing what's inside the black mirror. And folks, I guess if I had to say the point of all of the tools that I mentioned today, it's just to really cut down on the desire to pick up the phone to solve all of our problems. You know, the smartphone is a great tool and it can be used as a tool and you can get a lot of benefits from it. But I think the moment you start to rely on it for every solution to every problem in your day-to-day life, that's when the problems truly start. Now I'd like to hear from you though. What is your favorite low-tech tool that you use in your day-to-day that you find helps you cut down from the distraction of the smart world? Let me know in the comments. This is gonna be me playing out the video. Let's go.